You can wait right there.
My appointment was at 9.
Was. Past tense.
Babe, is that still the walk-in?
Since 8:41, she is committed.
My name is in the book downstairs. Nobody reads the book, honey. Then read it now. Kitchen is by the freight elevator. Be a dear.
You are whatever that badge says. Hold this.
Oh, that one is going in the chat. I will wait.
Have you ever been in a room where everybody decided you were nobody and been the only one who knew better? Dion Hardaway signed the visitor book at 8:41 that morning.
Welcome.
First line, real name, no title. In 12 days, a packed boardroom hears that line read out loud. Comment where you are watching from. Drop a like. And let us rewind. Dion Hardaway owned Ardmore Freight Systems outright. Every share of it. And almost nobody in the company had ever seen her face. That was on purpose. She ran the business out of a converted dispatch office at the Rockvale terminal, 2 miles from the tower. In a room that smelled like diesel and burnt coffee and had a window looking straight at the dock. She liked the sound of the dock. She had grown up on it. Her father was Verdell Hardaway, and he loaded trailers for Ardmore for 31 years. Back when it was 6 trucks and a gravel lot. He came home with his forearms scraped raw in the winter, and he never once complained where she could hear him. He gave her one rule when she was 19 and starting to get ambitious. And he gave it to her in a parking lot, leaning on a hood. The way men of his generation gave anything important, if you have to say your name to get treated right, he told her, then whatever you built is not worth what you think it is. She started at Ardmore herself at 22, on the phones, dispatching night runs. She left at 26 because the man who ran it then told her, kindly, that customers preferred a certain kind of voice. She built her own brokerage out of a spare bedroom with a laptop and a landline. And it took her 11 years. And 3 years ago, her holding company bought Ardmore Freight Systems in a private transaction that never made the local paper. She did not put her name on the building. She did not put her picture in the lobby. She told the board she was not interested in being a story. She was interested in whether the trucks ran. So there were 2,300 people on the Ardmore payroll across 14 terminals. And most of them thought the company was owned by an investment group in another state. There was no portrait. There was no welcome video. There was a signature at the bottom of every single paycheck. And that signature said D. Hardaway in small, tight letters. And in 3 years, not one person on the 14th floor had ever bothered to wonder whose hand it came from. That mattered more than it sounds like it should. Because Ardmore still ran its payroll the old way. Twice a month, the payroll file had to be released under dual control. The controller built it. The payroll director verified it. And then the sole signatory of record countersigned a paper authorization in person, by hand, before the bank cut off at 6 in the evening. It was an antique procedure. It had been in the bylaws since before Dion was born. And every consultant who ever looked at it recommended killing it. And Dion kept it. Because it meant twice a month she had to physically look at the number of human beings depending on her. Downstairs in the payroll room, in a gray steel cabinet, sat the facsimile plate that stamped her signature onto every check that printed. Juanita Selby, who ran payroll and had run it for 22 years. kept the key to that cabinet on a chain around her neck. The tower was a different animal. Brant Sedgwick had been division president for the corporate group for 2 years. Hired by the board before Dion bought the company, and kept on afterward because the numbers were fine and she believed in leaving people alone until they gave her a reason. He had built the 14th floor into something that looked like a magazine spread. Glass, gray stone, a boardroom with frosted doors and a catering budget. A visitor policy where you signed a leather book at the front desk, took a numbered clip badge, and waited to be collected. Marissa Starnes was his chief of staff and had been his fiancée since March. She controlled his calendar the way a bouncer controls a rope. She had a phrase she used for people she did not recognize, and she used it in front of them. And it was walk in. That Thursday morning, Dion Hardaway had 3 reasons to be in that building. The first was the countersignature. It was the 10th. It was a release day. And the authorization had to be signed before 6 or 2,300 people did not get paid on Friday. The second was a 9 o'clock with Brant Sedgwick. On his calendar for 11 days. Booked under her own name. No title attached. Because she never used one. The third was a folder. Inside it were 3 letters that had come to the Rockville terminal in the last 5 months. All unsigned. All saying some version of the same sentence. If you are not somebody, you do not get past the 14th floor. She wanted to see it for herself. She was about to... She parked in a visitor space at 836 because the reserved spaces on the east side had names painted on them, and none of the names were hers. The Fairmount building lobby was cold in the way expensive lobbies are cold. All polished gray stone and a fountain nobody looked at. Behind the security desk stood Marlon Swearingen. 62. Black. Uniform pressed. Reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He had worked that desk 11 years. He slid the leather visitor book across to her without being asked. Morning, ma'am. Who are you here to see, Brant Sedgwick? 9 o'clock. She wrote it herself on the first line of a clean page. D. Hardaway, 9 o'clock. B. Sedgwick, 8:41 in the arrival column. In her own handwriting. In blue ballpoint, Marlon wrote Goose 12 on a clip badge and handed it over. He wrote the same number in the badge column beside her name, the way he did 400 times a week. 14. Elevators on your left. You bring that badge back down when you leave. All right, I will. She did not, and that turned out to matter. The 14th floor smelled like new carpet and citrus cleaner. There was a reception desk in front of a glass wall, and behind the glass wall was the boardroom with its frosted doors. Danica Sherrill sat at the desk. 26. White. Headset on. 3 monitors. I have a 9 o'clock with Mr. Sedgwick. Name Hardaway. Danica typed it. She typed it again. She scrolled. And her eyebrows came together. And she did the thing people do when the screen disagrees with the human being in front of them, which is to trust the screen. I am not seeing anything. Are you sure it was confirmed? It was confirmed 11 days ago? Marissa keeps the calendar. Let me ask her. Do you want to have a seat? It was not a question. So Dion sat. She sat in the 3rd chair from the boardroom door because it was the one with a view of the elevators. And she put her coat across her knees and her folder on top of the coat. And she waited the way she had waited for a lot of things in her life. Without fidgeting, Marissa Starnes came out at 9:04 with a phone in her hand and a coffee in the other and did not slow down. Are you the vendor I have a 9 o'clock with Brant Sedgwick? Nothing on his 9. Marissa did not stop walking. It is a review day. He is booked wall to wall. You can leave a card with Danica. I do not have a card. That got her a look. Not a long one. A quick top-to-bottom scan of the coat. The shoes. The hair. The face. Filed and closed in under 2 seconds. Right. Marissa said, "Well, you can wait." Brant Sedgwick walked past her at 9:11, carrying a cup with the lid off and a folder under his arm, talking to 2 men in half-zip sweaters about a boat. He passed within 4 feet of the chair she was sitting in. He did not turn his head. She was, at that moment, the only person on that floor who had actually been on his calendar. And he walked by her like she was part of the furniture. At 9:15, the boardroom filled up. 14 people? The frosted doors closed. Through them, she could see shapes and a projector glow. And she could hear the shape of laughter without the words. She could have ended it right there. That is the part people cannot get past. She had a phone in her coat pocket. One call to Alberta Shropshire, the corporate secretary. And that door opens in 90 seconds and stays open. 1 sentence to the young woman at the desk. 2 words to Marissa Starnes. She did not say them. And she had a reason. And the reason was in the folder on her lap. 3 letters in 5 months. Unsigned. Different handwriting each time. 1 from a driver. 1 from a dockhand. 1 typed on a terminal computer by somebody who was careful enough to use a font nobody could trace. All of them saying the same thing in different words. If you are not somebody, you do not get past the 14th floor. She had asked herself in the car what she was actually there to find out. And the honest answer was not comfortable. She was there to find out what happened to a person with no title and no leverage and no name anybody recognized. And the second she said her own name out loud, that experiment was over. And she would never know. Her father's voice, in a parking lot, leaning on a hood, if you have to say your name to get treated right. So she sat. At 9:40, Danica brought her a paper cup of water without being asked and said, quietly, "I am sorry. I really did have you at 9. And then her phone rang and she never came back to it. At 10:20, the desk phone rang and Dion heard both halves of it because the lobby was quiet. 14th floor. Danica. Pause. No. Ma'am. No Hardaway. Another pause. I will tell Marissa. That was Juanita Selby, downstairs in payroll. On the first of the calls she would make that day, there would be 9 of them before the end. Every single one got the same answer. And every single one of them was wrong. At 11, the boardroom door opened for the first time. 2 men came out for coffee, laughing at something. One of them looked at Dion and did the calculation people do, and decided she was there to be somewhere else. He held the door for the other man and let it shut. At 11:10, the elevator opened, and a man got off who had no appointment at all. He was white, maybe 50, quarter-zip pullover, boat shoes, a phone in his hand, and a laptop bag on his shoulder. He did not sign anything downstairs, because Marlon Swearingen knew his face and waved him through. He walked up to Danica's desk and said he was in the neighborhood and wanted to catch Brant. Danica smiled and said, "Let me see." She did not type. She stood up, walked 11 steps, opened the boardroom door herself, and put her head in. 90 seconds. That is how long it took from the elevator to the handshake. Dion timed it because by then she had started timing things. And because a person who has been sitting for 2.5 hours has nothing else to do with her attention, the man went into the boardroom. Somebody in there said his name warmly. The way you say a name, you are glad to see. The door shut on the sound of it. Dion wrote a single lot on the inside cover of her folder in blue ballpoint. 11:10. 90 seconds. No book. At 11:20, Marissa came back through with a stack of binders and stopped. "You are still here. I am. Honey. I told you. He is not seeing walk-ins. I am not a walk-in. Check the book at the front desk. My name is on the first line of today's page. Marissa Starnes looked at her for a moment, and something crossed her face that was not confusion. It was irritation at being corrected, which is a different animal. "Nobody reads the book," she said. "The book is for the fire marshal." She walked off. Her heels made a sound on the stone like a clock that was running fast. At 11:50, Brandt came out of the boardroom, phone at his ear, and stood 8 feet from Dion's chair with his back to her. "No, we are good. We are wrapping the deck." "Yeah," he laughed. "Marissa says there is a walk-in camped in the lobby. Since like 8? No idea. Some woman. He said it easy. The way you say a thing you will not remember saying. Dion heard every syllable. Her hands did not move on the folder. At 12:15, the catering came up on a rolling cart. 12 lunches under foil. A coffee urn. A stack of plates. A tray of cookies. The kid pushing the cart, maybe 24, glanced at Dion and then at the boardroom, doing math about who counted. "Ma'am, are you with the meeting? I have an appointment with them." Marissa appeared at the boardroom door and answered for her. "She is not with the meeting." The cart went in. The doors closed. The smell of hot food came through the gap and sat in the hallway for a long time afterward. The way food smells do in a hallway with no windows. Dion had not eaten since a banana in the truck at 6. She did not get up. She had figured out by then that the moment she stood, the chair became available. And the chair was the only proof she had that she had been there at all. She looked at the clock over the elevators. It said 12:19. She had been sitting 3 hours and 38 minutes. And in the whole of that morning, in a building with 400 people in it, not one person had asked her what her name was. That number was going to change once. At 3:12 in the afternoon, and it was not going to be anybody on the 14th floor who changed it. The afternoon is where this stops being rude and starts being something else. At 12:50, the boardroom doors opened and stayed open for a while. People came out with plates. They stood in the hallway eating and talking about a golf outing. 4 feet from a woman who had not been offered a glass of water since 9:40. And the conversation flowed around her chair like water around a rock. At 1:05, Marissa Starnes came out with a phone in her hand and stopped in front of Dion with her head tipped to one side. "You are aware he is not coming out. I am aware he has not come out. That is a cute answer." Marissa smiled. "Look, I am going to be honest with you. Because somebody should be. Whatever you are selling, this is not how you get in the door here. You do not sit in a lobby all day like a summons server. It reads desperate. I am not selling anything. Then you are wasting a chair." She reached past Dion and picked up the paper cup of water off the side table. The one Danica had brought her 3 hours earlier. Half full and gone flat. "This is for the meeting," Marissa said, and carried it away. That was the first thing she took. At 1:40 of facilities, man came up with a hand truck and a stack of folding chairs. Because there was a client dinner walkthrough at 5, and the good chairs were being pulled for it. Marissa pointed at the third chair from the boardroom door, the one Dion was sitting in, and then pointed at the freight elevator alcove around the corner. "She can sit down there. We need this line clean." The freight alcove had no window, one flickering fixture, and a wire rack of cleaning supplies. It smelled like ammonia. Dion stood up, picked up her coat and her folder, walked around the corner, and sat down on a folding chair with a bent leg. Then she got up, carried the folding chair back around the corner, and set it down in the exact spot where the good chair had been. She sat in it, facing the boardroom door, with her back straight and her folder on her knees. Marissa saw her do it. Marissa did not say anything, because there was nothing in the handbook about it, and because something in the way the woman had done it made her want to go be somewhere else. At 2:10, Danica's headset lit up again. 14th floor. Danica. Pausa. Ms. Selby. I promise you, I have been at this desk since 8 this morning. Nobody named Hardaway. She put her hand over the mouthpiece and looked at Brandt, who was walking past with 2 of the sweater men. Payroll again. They say they need a signature before 6 or Friday does not run. Brandt did not break stride. Tell them to figure it out. That is literally what we pay them for. He said it 4 feet from the woman whose hand was the only hand on earth that could sign it. He did not look at her when he said it. He had, by then, walked past that chair 11 times. 2 floors down, in a windowless room with a gray steel cabinet, Juanita Selby was starting to sweat through a cardigan. She had run Ardmore payroll for 22 years, and she knew exactly what the clock meant. The file was built. The only thing standing between 2,300 people and a Friday deposit was one signature. In person. Before 6. She had called the 14th floor at 10:20, at 11:40, at 1:50, at 2:10. She had called Ms. Hardaway's cell twice and gotten voicemail. Because the phone was in a coat pocket on a folding chair 1 floor above her. At 2:20, she called the corporate secretary's office and left a message that ended with the words, "I do not know what else to do." At 2:30, the group chat started. It was called 14th Floor. There were 6 people in it. Marissa opened it with a photograph taken through the glass of the back of Dion's head. And the messages that followed came out later. Word for word. On a screen in a room where nobody was laughing. Still here. LOL. No. 6 hours. She brought a folder. Somebody. Give her a mop. And let her feel useful. Dying 6 people. Not one of them typed the words, "Who is she?" At 3:12, the elevator opened and Marlon Swearingen stepped off it, holding a bottle of water from his own lunch cooler. Still cold. Sweating through the label. He had come up on his break because of the badge log. Guest 12 had gone up at 8:41 and had not come back down. And in 11 years of running that desk, Marlon Swearingen had never once let a badge sit out past 6 hours without checking on the person wearing it. He walked over to the folding chair and crouched down so he was not standing over her. "Ma'am, you have been up here a long time. I have... They feed you no." He handed her the water. She took it with both hands. "What is your name?" he asked. Dion Hardaway looked at him for a second longer than she needed to. "Dion," she said. "Miss Dion." He nodded slowly, the way a man nods when he is deciding something. "You want me to go knock on that door, because I will knock on that door." "No." "Sir, thank you." "You sure?" "I am sure." He stood up, and his knees popped. And he looked at the frosted glass for a long moment, with an expression she would think about for a long time afterward. "All right," he said, "but I'm putting it in my log that you are still up here." He wrote it in blue ballpoint in the same book she had signed that morning. In the notes column. At 3:14, guest 12, still on 14. No. Escort. Advised. Marlon Swearingen was the only person in that building who asked her name in 9 hours. He did not know who she was. That is the entire point. At 3:40, Brandt came out to take a call and saw the water bottle on the floor by her chair. "Somebody get her a juice box, too," he said to nobody. And the sweater men laughed, and he went back in. At 4:15, Marissa came out with her coat already on her arm. "So we are wrapping... He has got the client thing at 5:30. Today is not happening. My appointment was at 9, and it is 4:15. Marissa said it slowly, like a kindness. Sweetheart, take the hint. You are making people uncomfortable. At 4:52, Brant Sedgwick came out with his overcoat over his arm and stood over the folding chair. And the catering cart came out behind him, stacked with plates. And Marissa stopped it, and lifted the top tray, and set it down on the carpet at Dion's feet. Kitchen is by the freight elevator. Be a dear. The coat came down across her lap at 4:53. The photograph was taken at 4:53 and 11 seconds. Flash on, and it went into 14th floor 40 seconds later with 3 laughing faces under it. Dion folded the coat and set it on the empty chair beside her. At 5:11, Marissa Starnes picked up the house phone at Danica's desk and dialed the ground floor security desk. Hi, there is a woman in our lobby who has been here all day and will not leave. Can you send somebody up to walk her out? The man who came up was Marlon Swearingen. Because he was the only officer on the floor, he got off the elevator and looked at the folding chair, and then at Marissa, and then at the tray of dirty plates still sitting on the carpet. And something happened in his face that had been building since 3:12. Ma'am, this lady is signed in. She has got a 9 o'clock in the book with Mr. Sedgwick. First line. This morning, I do not care what the book says. It is the same book you all make everybody sign. Marissa's voice went flat and pleasant. Which was worse? Are you refusing to do your job? I am telling you what is in the log. Then maybe you should not have a log to write in. She let that sit for exactly as long as it needed to sit. What is your name? He told her. She typed it into her phone in front of him. Slowly, letter by letter, so he could watch her do it. Brant Sedgwick came out of the boardroom then with his tie loosened and a glass in his hand. Because the client walkthrough had turned into a drink, and he took in the scene the way you take in weather. What is the holdup? Security has opinions. Marissa said, Sir? She is signed in. Buddy. Brant put a hand on Marlon's shoulder. Friendly. Heavy. Nobody has been sitting out here all day. That is not a thing that happens in my building. He was looking directly at her when he said it. And he still said nobody. That is the detail that killed him later. In a room with a court reporter in it, Dion Hardaway stood up out of the folding chair. She was 5'10" in flat shoes, and she came up slow. And both of them stepped back half a step without deciding to. The way people do. I would like the book from the front desk. She said, the original, not a copy. Oh my God. Marissa said, Are you serious right now? The elevator chimed behind them. Juanita Selby came off that elevator at 5:41 with a folder against her chest and a key on a chain around her neck, and no time left to be polite to anybody. She was 58 years old, 4'11" in shoes, wearing a cardigan with a tissue in the sleeve. She had run out of ideas at the payroll desk and had come up to beg the 14th floor to help her find a woman nobody would admit was in the building. She got 2 steps out of the elevator and stopped dead, because the woman was standing right there. Ms. Hardaway. The hallway changed temperature. Oh, thank God. Ma'am, I have been calling since 10:20. I have called 9 times. They kept telling me you were not here. Her voice cracked on the last word, and she pushed straight through it. The file is built. The controller verified at 11. I need the countersignature, or the bank cutoff kills Friday. Give it to me. Juanita handed her the authorization sheet and a pen, and Dion Hardaway laid it flat on the seat of a folding chair with a bent leg, and signed her own name at 5:44 in the afternoon. In blue ballpoint. In small, tight letters. D. Hardaway. The same signature that was cut into a steel plate 2 floors down. The same one that printed at the bottom of every check that came out of that building. Marissa Starnes said, "I am sorry." Who is she? Juanita Selby turned around and looked at her the way you look at a person who has just asked what color the sky is. She owns the company. Nobody said anything for 4 seconds. 4 seconds is a very long time in a hallway. That is not. Brandt started, and then stopped, because his mouth had gotten ahead of the part of his brain that had begun, quietly, to do arithmetic. Ardmore Freight Systems, Juanita said, because somebody had to. Sole shareholder. Chair of the board. She signs the release twice a month. She has signed it every 15th and every 30th for 3 years. Dion handed the sheet back to her. Go. You have got 16 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Juanita went, half running, and the elevator doors closed on the sound of her saying, "Thank you." Then it was just the 4 of them in a hallway with a tray of dirty plates on the carpet. Dion Hardaway took her phone out of her coat pocket for the first time in 9 hours. She did not raise her voice. She had never once raised her voice. All day. And she did not start now. Alberta, it is Dion. I am on 14. A pause. Nobody leaves this floor. Not the executive team. Not reception. Not the catering staff. Nobody. Second, I want the original visitor book from the ground floor desk brought up to me by hand. The book itself. Not a scan. Not a photograph. Third, freeze the badge log and the calendar audit trail for today before anybody has an idea. Fourth, call counsel at home and tell her I said tonight. The voice on the other end did not ask a single question. Understood. Ma'am. Consider it done. She put the phone back in her pocket. Brant Sedgwick had gone a color that does not have a name. He had put the glass down on Danica's desk without looking at where he was putting it. And it was leaving a ring on a stack of printed agendas. And he did not notice. Ms. Hardaway, there has clearly been he said, and then went hunting for a word. And the word he found was breakdown. A breakdown in communication. Danica. Danica had both hands flat on the counter and was breathing like she had run up the stairs. Yes, ma'am. Pull today's calendar for Mr. Sedgwick. Not the current version. The change history. Danica typed. It took her 11 seconds. She read what came up and her face went white in stages. From the forehead down, there was a 9 o'clock. She said. Booked 11 days ago. It was still on there at 6 this morning. And it was reassigned at 8:52. Danica swallowed. By Marissa. It got moved to hold, and the note field says, walk in. No title. 8:52. 11 minutes after a woman wrote her real name on the first line of a leather book downstairs. Marissa Starnes said. Very fast. I did not know who she was. I understand that. Dion said. That is the whole problem. She turned to Brant Sedgwick, and she said the next part quietly, which was somehow worse for him than shouting would have been. Take out your phone. Open your last pay stub. Ma'am, I do not think that is. Open it. He opened it. Everybody in that hallway watched a grown man scroll to the bottom of his own pay stub with his thumb shaking. At the bottom of it, in a small, tight blue script, above a line that said, Authorized Signatory, was the name D. Hardaway, 68 times. She said, I have paid you 68 times. You have cashed every one of them. You have never once read the name on the bottom of the check. And today I sat 18 feet from your door for 9 hours, and you called me nobody in front of a security officer. Brant Sedgwick sat down. He did not choose to. There happened to be a chair behind him. One of the good ones. Back out for the walkthrough. And he found it with the back of his legs and went into it. I want to be clear about something. Dion said, "You are not in trouble because of who I turned out to be. You are in trouble because of who you thought I was." The book came up at 5:51, carried by hand, and the hand it was carried in belonged to Marlon Swearingen. He set it on the reception counter and opened it to that day's page and turned it around so it faced her. The way he had turned it around at 8:41 that morning, Dion Hardaway read the first line out loud. In a hallway where nobody was breathing. D. Hardaway, 9 o'clock. B. Sedgwick. Arrived 8:41. Badge guest 12. Then she read the notes column. 3:14 in the afternoon. In a different hand. Guest 12, still on 14. No escort. Advised. She looked up at Marlon. "Thank you for writing that down. It is the log. Ma'am, it is the only document in this building that tells the truth about today." She closed it gently. "You are not in any trouble. Not tonight. Not next week. Not ever. Over this." Behind her, Brant Sedgwick had started talking. And once he started, he could not find the break. "Ms. Hardaway, I want to say, I was in a quarterly review from 9:15 straight through. I physically did not have eyes on the lobby. And honestly, the calendar is not something I touch. Marissa runs the calendar. That is her function. If a 9 o'clock got moved to hold at 8:52, that did not come from me." Marissa Starnes turned her head and looked at her fiancé of 5 months. And whatever was on her face in that moment, it never fully came off again. "Babe, I am being accurate. You said let her sit." The hallway got very quiet. "You said it at 8:50 in the morning." Marissa said. "You looked at the desk and you said, let her sit. I want to see how long she stays." Nobody in that hallway ever forgot the sound of a woman handing over the man she was going to marry in 9 words. In under 3 seconds. Without being asked. Dion let it finish. Then she said, "Who put the tray on the floor?" Nobody answered. "Danica." She did. "Ma'am?" Danica Sherrill was crying by then. Quietly. In the way people cry when they have realized they were in the room the whole time. Miss Starnes did. "And Mr. Sedgwick put his coat on her lap. And they took a picture of it. "Is the picture still on the phone?" "It is in a group chat." Danica said, "It is called 14th floor. I am in it. I did not type anything. But I am in it. And I did not say anything either. And I should have. Write down everything you remember tonight. Before you sleep." Dion said, "Times if you have them. Then go home." She turned back to the two of them. "You are both suspended. Effective right now. Pending an outside investigation. Do not touch your phones except to hand them to counsel. Do not delete anything. Do not text anybody in this building. Badges on the counter." Brant Sedgwick said, 9 hours does not make me a criminal." "No," she agreed. "It makes you a man who ran a floor where a person could sit for 9 hours and nobody had to explain it. That is not a criminal. That is worse for you, because that is a job description." They put their badges on the counter. Then the two of them walked to the elevator and rode down 14 floors in silence and came out into a gray stone lobby where Marlon Swearingen was standing behind the security desk with the visitor book open in front of him. He slid it across. "Sir, ma'am, everybody who is on this floor after hours signs out." Brant Sedgwick signed his own name in a leather book on the way out of a building he had run for 2 years. and Marlon Swearingen wrote the time in the column beside it. 6:11 in blue ballpoint, and did not look up. Upstairs. The tray of dirty plates was still on the carpet where it had been set down. A man from facilities came around the corner at 6:20 and reached for it. And Dion Hardaway said, "Leave it." It sat there overnight under a hallway light that never gets turned off. A fork on the carpet beside it. And at 8:15 the next morning, an investigator photographed it from 4 angles with a ruler in the frame. That photograph is the second exhibit in the report. The first exhibit is a page from a leather book, 2 floors up, at 5:58. With 2 minutes left before the bank cutoff, Juanita Selby released the file. 2,300 people got paid on Friday and never knew how close it came. Every one of those checks carried the same signature at the bottom, in small, tight blue letters. And one of them was made out to Brant Sedgwick, and it was the last one he ever got. The outside firm took 12 days, and what they found was never really about one Thursday. They started with the leather book, because Dion Hardaway told them to start with the leather book. 2 years of pages, every line, every arrival time, every badge number. Cross-referenced against the badge return log, Marlon Swearingen had been keeping in blue ballpoint the entire time without anybody upstairs ever asking to see it. The pattern came out of it like a bone out of an X-ray. Over 2 years, 91 visitors signed that book with a confirmed appointment on the 14th floor. Of those, 19 were never collected. Not late. Never. They sat. And then, at some point, they gave up and walked out and dropped a numbered badge on the desk on their way past. Of those 19 people, 16 were Black or Latino. The average wait for a visitor who was eventually walked into the boardroom was 6 minutes. The average wait for the 19 was 4 hours and 9 minutes. 2 of them had been there longer than 5 hours. One of them, a woman who owned a trucking company in the next county and had come to pitch a partnership, sat for 6 hours and 30 minutes and then wrote a note on the back of her own business card and left it at the desk. The card was still in a drawer. The note said, "I understand." Marlon Swearingen had flagged 11 of the 19 in his notes column. Guest still upstairs. No escort. Advised. Nobody had ever once come down to ask him what advised meant. Then they got the phones. The group chat called 14th Floor produced 430 messages and became the part of the report that circulated fastest, because it did not need a lawyer to explain it. 6 adults with corporate titles, in a chat that ran for 11 months, rating the people in their own lobby. There were nicknames in there. There was a running joke about a category of visitor they called clipboards. There was a photograph, time-stamped 4:53, of a woman with a stranger's overcoat across her lap. And under it, 3 laughing faces. Marissa Starnes gave a sworn statement on day 6 with counsel, and she gave up everything. She confirmed the calendar change at 8:52. She confirmed the note field. She confirmed the water cup, the folding chair, the tray, and the photograph. All of it. Times and all. And she confirmed the sentence. On the record. That ended him. At approximately 8:50 in the morning, before reviewing the calendar, Mr. Sedgwick observed the visitor and stated, "Let her sit. I want to see how long she stays." Brant Sedgwick sat for a deposition on day 9 and made it worse, in the way that people who have always been fine always make it worse. He said he had been in a review. He said the calendar was not his function. He said he had never intended anything by it. And then counsel asked him one question and let the silence run. If you had known who she was, would she have waited? he said no. He said it fast, before he understood what he had done. And there is a court reporter's transcript with that syllable sitting alone on a line. And it is the single most quoted line in the whole file. On day 12, the board of Ardmore Freight Systems held a special meeting in the same boardroom with the frosted doors. It was standing room. Terminal managers drove in from 4 states. Drivers came in on their day off in clean shirts. Juanita Selby sat in the second row with her key on its chain. Danica Sherrill sat in the back and did not try to hide that she was crying. The first item on the agenda was not a resolution. It was a reading. Dion Hardaway asked Marlon Swearingen to come to the front, and he did, in his pressed uniform, with his reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, and he opened the leather book and read the 19 lines out loud. Name, date, time in, badge number, time. The badge came back down. It took him 9 minutes. Nobody moved. When he got to the line that said D, Hardaway, 8:41. Guess 12. A man in the back of the room said, "Oh my God," out loud. And Marlon kept reading, because there were 4 more names after hers. Then the board voted. Brant Sedgwick was terminated for cause, which cost him a severance package, a stock award that had not vested, and the industry association seat he had been campaigning for since spring. The company clawed back his prior year bonus, and he did not contest it, because contesting it meant a hearing. And a hearing meant the transcript with the word no on a line by itself. Marissa Starnes was terminated the same afternoon. 3 of the 19 filed civil rights complaints once the report became public. Dion gave counsel one instruction about all 3, and it was the shortest instruction of her career. Do not fight them. Not one. Pay it. Apologize in writing. And put my name on the letter. The trade press picked it up in a week. The local business paper ran the photograph of a tray of plates on a hallway carpet with a ruler in the frame. And that picture went further than any headline. Because everybody who has ever been made to feel small in a nice building understood it instantly and without translation. There was one more thing read out loud in that boardroom, and it came out of the folder that had been on her knees all day. Dion Hardaway stood up with 3 unsigned letters in her hand and read the shortest one. The one written in pencil on the back of a dispatch sheet by somebody at a terminal she still cannot name. It said, "We are not asking for anything. We just want to know if the people at the top know we exist." She put it down and said one sentence to a room with 110 people in it. They know now. Brant Sedgwick tried once. He wrote her a letter on day 15. 2 pages. And it was a good letter in the way that a man who has spent his life being articulate can write a good letter. He said he had never thought of himself as that kind of person. He asked for a meeting. She wrote back 4 lines by hand. Mr. Sedgwick, I believe you never thought of yourself that way. Nobody in that hallway did. That is exactly how a woman ends up sitting in a folding chair for 9 hours in a building she owns. And it is why I am not going to meet with you. She never heard from him again. The last thing the board did that day was pass a policy that took 9 words to write and has never once been amended. Every guest in the book is greeted by name. The leather book does not live at the security desk anymore. It lives on the boardroom table on the 14th floor. Open. At every single meeting held in that room, the first item on every agenda, before the numbers, before the deck, is one person reading the last name written in it out loud. 9 words of policy. And that is what they cost. Marlon Swearingen did not get promoted. Because when Dion Hardaway asked him what he wanted, he said he wanted his desk. Then he said the other thing, the one he had been carrying for 11 years. He wanted a second officer on nights. So nobody in that lobby ever sits by themselves again. He got both. He also got the job of walking every new hire in that building through the book on their first morning. And he does it the same way every time. He opens it to a Thursday in the spring, and he points at the first line on the page, and he lets them read it themselves. Danica Sherrill still works for the company. She asked to move to the terminal side, and she got it. And she keeps a copy of her own written statement in her desk, which nobody made her do. Juanita Selby still has the key on the chain. The manual countersignature is still in the bylaws. Every consultant who looks at it still recommends killing it. And Dion still says no. Twice a month. For the same reason. The ring turned up in June. The good chairs on 14 went out for reupholstery. And a woman from building services named Gwendolyn Sizemore was pulling staples out of the third chair from the boardroom door when something came out of the seam of the cushion and rolled onto the drop cloth. She filled out a found property slip in blue ballpoint. The way you do. 1 ring. White metal. Clear stone. Unclaimed. Nobody ever established when it went into that seam. And by June, there was nobody left in that building willing to ask. It sat in a drawer for 90 days. Nobody came for it. Brant Sedgwick sells industrial supply in another state now. For a company with 11 employees, Marissa Starnes moved home. The wedding was in October and it did not happen. And neither of them has ever said in public which one of them called it off. And there is a sworn statement on file that makes it fairly easy to guess. Dion Hardaway still runs Ardmore Freight Systems out of a converted dispatch office 2 miles from the tower, with a window facing the dock. Her name is still not on the building. There is still no portrait in the lobby. The folding chair with the bent leg is in the corner of her office. She never explains it. People stop asking after a while. Her father told her once, in a parking lot, that if you have to say your name to get treated right, then whatever you built is not worth what you think it is. She still believes the first half of that. She has added something to the second half, and she says it out loud now. At every terminal, twice a year, you should not have to say your name, but if you do have to say it late, and say it for the 19 people behind you who never got to. What matters is not that the woman in the folding chair turned out to own the building. It is that for 9 hours, she was just a woman in a folding chair. And 400 people walked past her. And exactly one of them stopped and asked her name. So who is sitting in your lobby right now? And does anybody there know what to call them? Tell me in the comments. And tell me where you are watching from. Drop a like. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it. And subscribe so you catch the next one.
Okay, real talk. The thing that broke me is not the coat, and it is not the tray. It is that she had 1 sentence in her pocket the entire day and swallowed it 9 hours straight so she could find out what happens to a woman with no name to drop. 19 people before her walked out of that lobby, and nobody ever counted them. And the only person in a 400-person building who acted like a human being was a 62-year-old man with a bottle of water and a logbook. Be Marlin. Please, just be Marlin.